Hello, everyone. It's Steve with Aptera Owners Club. One of our viewers sent me an article about this Section 1202 tax exclusion, and I thought it was super interesting. I would let you guys know in case some of you guys were not aware of it. Many of us are investors in Aptera, and it is potentially this applies to us. From what I've looked at, it does apply to us, and this could for people that have invested a lot, this could be a potentially huge tax savings. But again, I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not an accountant. This is not tax advice. This is just informational. If you are looking into this, you should go to an actual accountant or tax attorney and see if you qualify for this exclusion. But it's something that they may not know about, but could research for you. And if you tell them about it, at least you can investigate that. Okay, so this is the article that I found, and I can link these articles in the description. It says almost too good to be true. The Section 1220 qualified small business stock gain exclusion. Okay, so I looked in Investopedia and I looked it up, and so this is called the Small Business Stock Gains Exclusion. And it is a portion of the code that allows capital gains from select small business stock to be excluded from federal tax. It only applies to small business stock acquired after September 27, 2010, and is held for more than 5 years. So that would definitely apply to us. Aptera stock was not available until about 2020 or 2019. And then it is going to be definitely held for more than 5 years before they go public, when and if they do. All right, so the maximum amount that you can exclude is $10 million. It's very unlikely that anyone will exceed that, except for maybe some of the big investors in the accelerator program, or 10 times the adjusted basis stock. That may qualify if Aptera does very, very well and they go 10x. If they go like 20x, you can only exclude the first 10x portion of it. So if you invested like $10,000 and it goes up to $100,000, that gain would be tax free under this. But if it went up to $200,000, only the first $100,000 would be tax free. This became law in 2015, and that was when it was called Protecting Americans from Tax Hikes Act of 2015. This was signed by Obama and passed by Congress at that time. And what it does is it lets you, let's see what the requirements are. So the requirements are, actually this other article does a better job, I think, of going through it. So let's go through it. If it's after 2010, you get 100% exclusion. And after 1993, from this time period, it's 50%. So this doesn't apply to us. It's after 2010, so 100%. So usually the tax rate would be 23.8%. So, if you made $1 million on Aptera stock, you gained $1 million, you would have to pay $250,000 generally. But because of this act, if it qualifies, if it's determined that you qualify, you would save yourself basically $250,000 on a gain of $1 million in capital gains on Aptera stock, which is a pretty big savings. All right. So here's an example. Someone was issued stock in Spooky Incorporated for $2 million. And then in 2016, so 5 years later, he sold the stock for $22 million. So he realized a $20 million gain. If the stock qualified, he would exclude 100% of the $20 million gain. So it's the greater. Oh, that's interesting. So it's the greater of $10 million or 10 times its initial basis. So 10 times its initial basis at this time would be 20 million. So that's actually so I thought it was the lesser of 100 million or 10 times, but it's actually the greater. So that's even better. So since Fox's entire 20 million gain realized would be excluded from income, he would pay zero tax. Without this, he would have had to pay tax of $5 million, which is huge. Okay. So what are the qualifications? So you have to be an eligible shareholder. An eligible shareholder means that you have to be either a individual, a trust, or an estate. You can't be a corporate shareholder. You can't be a company that bought another company. So, and then a holding period, you have to hold it for more than 5 years. Original issuance of stock has to be after 1993, where you get partial, but after 2010, you get 100%. So, corporate requirements. What does the corporation that issues the stock have to be? It has to be a C corporation, and not an S corporation. So I didn't really understand what that meant, so I looked it up. All right, so this is talking about what is an S corporation and a C corporation. The C corporation is the default. S corporation is a special one. So what I figured out is S corporations are basically smaller corporations, and they have some tax advantages for very, very small corporations. And that's why if you have a very, very small business, you may want to incorporate as an S corporation, not a C corporation, because you can do some tax pass through to avoid taxes, and you're not double taxed. Because the C corporations, they have to they have to pay corporate tax, and they have to pay personal tax on the owner. So that's what S corporations let you get around. But if you're an S corporation, you would not qualify for this. But we know that Aptera is not an S corporation, because S corporations are restricted to no more than 100 shareholders. So we know Aptera has at least 2,000 shareholders from the accelerator program, and I think they mentioned several thousand beyond that. So that's not true. And then S corporations can have only one class of stock, while C corporations have multiple classes of stock. And we know Aptera has multiple classes of stock. By these definitions, Aptera is definitely a C corporation, not an S corporation. Okay, so then we know that qualifies. And then you have to have less than $50 million in gross assets at the time of stock offering. And so that's definitely the case. Aptera had essentially no assets, very, very little assets at the time that they offered their stock. And then they have redemption transactions. So that means that it's because Congress intended. So the whole reason behind this is they wanted to incentivize people to invest in small companies like the Aptera, basically. That's what they wanted to do. So because Congress intended to encourage investment in small business, it wanted to prevent situations where capital invested for this was used to fund the redemption of other shareholders. So they didn't want it to be like a revolving wheel. So basically, they didn't want companies to be buying back stock using the money that you paid them. And then it has to be a qualified business. So every business qualifies except for these businesses. So if you're a personal services, like you do healthcare, or you're a law firm, or you do an engineering firm, or you're an architecture firm, or accounting firm, or something where your primary business is the skill of its employees, not the manufacture of something, then it doesn't qualify. So Aptera is definitely trying to manufacture a product. They're not selling their engineering skills or their finance skills or anything like that. If you're a banking, insurance, financing, leasing, or investing business, you don't qualify. So Aptera is not that. If you're a farming, gardening business, you don't qualify. So Aptera is not that. If you're a mining or drilling business, you don't qualify. If you're a hotel, motel, or restaurant business, you don't qualify. Or if you're a real estate business. So anyway, if you're a manufacturer of something, you obviously qualify. So I think that works. And then active business requirement. So they must use the funds towards the business that they are doing, like towards the development of a vehicle or manufacturing vehicle. What they don't want is to have a business that just invests in other businesses. So at least if 10% or more of a corporation's assets consists of stock or securities in other corporations, in which the corporation does not own over 50, so it's not a completely owned subsidiary, then it fails. Or if 10% or more of the corporation's gross assets are just properties that it owns that are not used in the conduct of the business, like it's just the investment property, it fails. So I think that's fine. So from my non-technical, non-tax accountant reading of this, it looks like Aptera qualifies. And if that's the case, if people make a large amount of money, you should 100% talk to your tax accountant, your tax attorney, or your accountant or your tax preparer about this Section 1202 exclusion and see if you qualify. My personal read is that you would qualify. And so just something to kind of jot down in the future could save you, depending on how much you invested and depending on how much Aptera stock goes up, quite a bit of money. All right. Hopefully that will become useful to all of us if and when Aptera goes public and if and when Aptera makes a ton of money. And then we can use this to save a decent amount on taxes. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.